Hello. I hope everybody's doing fine. I hope everybody had a good start of the year. As kind of a quick update, I did have a video sort of ready for what was late December, early January, addressing with the whole situation at that time with COVID and the pandemic. However, there was this update with Windows, and there was something that messed up with the Google Chrome. That what that meant was that the sources I had for the information I was presenting are kind of gone, and it seemed a little bit half-baked. I might just release it just as it is, but still. It also had my thoughts on a kind of a local county kind of thing that is going on with a doctor, well, two doctors who it's not that I support not doing anything for COVID, but they did do quite a few things that I didn't agree with, and one of them is going to be running for Congress, supposedly, or that's what the posters all over the city are saying. But anyway, I'm digressing. This time, get ready. I'm going to be kind of reviewing, and this is much more for me than anything else. It's from the same author of Jurassic Park and The Lost World, except that this is a novel that happens way before that, and it's called Dragon Teeth. Now, I haven't finished reading the book as of yet, but I did want to share my thoughts on it, and if I had to make a quick summary, right now it's amazing. It's not, if you were expecting it to be like Jurassic Park with all the dinosaurs and all that action, and then the engine, the company that is working behind the scenes trying to kind of destroy the world and all that good plot stuff, this is a little bit different. So with Dragon Teeth, we are following our protagonist, who is a young man by the name of William Johnson, and he is the son of a I forget like the exact title, but his dad basically runs a fleet of ships who are in charge of going back and forth with supplies, and he has made quite a name of himself. Now, William Johnson is bright. I mean, he's a very smart character. The only thing is that he hasn't been motivated, so he's just doing whatever he wants, and he's basically the popular guy. However, we run into a certain situation in which he is now going all the way to the west, and I mean the old west. This is before, there were the states of New Mexico, Arizona, California, Nevada. Like, before all those states were kind of heavily populated and cities and what we know today. These are times in which the way they went back and forth was solely by the railway. I'm getting ahead of myself. So before that, what led to going out west, which, funny enough, it's the name of the part one, the trip the trip far west, something like that. And what had happened was that William Johnson has this kind of nemesis, you could say, or this rival, however you want to look at it, and they like to kind of goad each other into doing different challenges and different things. And there was this one bet that they made where his rival told him, I will bet you a certain amount of money that you're not going to go to the west. You're going to go to Europe in vacation, and you're just going to be messing around. And William Johnson, not wanting his rival to take away his pride, said, I agree. I'll go to the west, and you will have to pay me the money. Pay me those, I believe it was $1,000, something like that, in any way. William Johnson was thinking, well, I can't afford to lose because, one, my pride, two, I don't have the money to pay him the money. And so what he actually does is that he tells the guy, yeah, I'll do it, and you're going to pay me when I come back. All right. So what ends up happening is that he goes to Professor Marsh, who is going to go all the way to the west. And the thing is, Professor Marsh is a paleontologist, which in in this time is like relatively new, and he's one of like the few experts in the field. However, he only had a place for 12 students to accompany him to the West, and every position was full. He had his 12 candidates. However, there was one thing he needed, and that was a photographer. And guess who is a photographer? Well, not William Johnson. I mean, he actually just says that he is, that he can go, but he's not actually a photographer. What he does do is that he goes to a photographer and learns how to take photography. These are the times in which they didn't have smartphones, they didn't have the Polaroid. The way they had to do photography was through placards, and which they later revealed through this kind of mix of chemicals that they made, and it had to be in a dark room. So you can only imagine. He tried, but as he was doing this, because he didn't really care for it, but he needed to do this in order to be able to go on the trip. And the more he tried, and the more the photographer would say, "That's a horrible job. You're not doing it right. I wouldn't even show this to a baby." That sort of thing. He begins to build pride in his work, something that he had never felt before. Because before it's okay, I'm the son of a rich merchant. I can do whatever I want. I'm athletic. I'm handsome, etc. But trying to get that approval of that his photography was not good, that it was at least decent. That was his standard. And he actually did make it. So, applause for him. And this is what is amazing, because we see this kind of quick transformation from this, high nose, however you want to describe it, boy, into somebody who actually wants to do something. Somebody who now has a purpose, at least for the moment. He says it better himself. When William Johnson goes back home, and this is before the trip, he talks to his father and his mother, and he's asking for their approval to go to the West. And his father is actually kind of on the mind of, he's talented, he's smart, but if he doesn't find a purpose, he is just going to make a wreck of his life. And so he's very concerned about that. And the mother, she just wants to make sure that he's safe. When he tells them about the trip to the West, and remember, this is the Old West, and it's not as civilized. And civilized, I would have to describe it more of, it's not like there were roads, not like there was a lot of infrastructure. It's basically towns that were, lifted, populated, but not just that. These are territories that were being occupied and displacing the Native Americans. And the thing about this is that if you look at the history books, this was also the time of the Indian Wars. So wars that were between the Native Americans and the people that were wanting to colonize the rest of the country. So it's quite a bloody history, but the relevance is that it's hostile territory. Not through the Native Americans' fault, but through the people that are wanting to colonize and settle and say, "Hey, this is ours," instead. Now, when he starts talking about his trip, his mother is very concerned. And it's to the point where she asked him, "Why do you want to even go in the first place?" And the answer that he gives is precisely a kind of a transition point that shows how much his character has changed from the beginning, which was, "I just want to win a bet," to now I actually want to accomplish something. I want to accomplish this specific goal. He tells them, both his mother and his father, "I'm doing this because I am tired of not knowing what to do. I want to make something out of myself." Which is pretty powerful words, because saying, "I want to make something of myself, that's why I'm doing this," it's quite a statement. It's a statement to the character, it's a statement to, It's not just, oh, I'm gonna grab, I don't know, a sandwich instead of cereal or something like that. No, this is actually a big decision. And so now we have William Johnson on his way to the west with Professor Marsh and the other candidates. Now, something to note is that Professor Marsh is actually very suspicious because William Johnson is from Philadelphia. And who's from Philadelphia as well? Well, Professor Marsh has this. Well, it's not a friendly rival. The guy is basically pretty bad. And when I say pretty bad, um, Professor Cope, that's his name, he not just rivals Professor Marsh in the field, but he actually he slandered his name or would try to take credit for Professor Marsh's work. He also did something particularly nasty, which was Professor Marsh in their younger days. He was interested in a girl, and Professor Cope, what he did was that he, to put it lightly, and to make this like a family friendly type of thing, he takes advantage of the girl, and she loses her honor, you could say. And instead of staying in as like a relationship or marrying her or anything, he just dumps her. So he just stripped away her pride and walked away. And obviously, Professor Marsh being interested in a girl, and not just did that happen, but that was a very low blow, you could say. So Professor Marsh is paranoid, but there is a good reason about the whole situation. And Professor Cope, he's actually in Pennsylvania. Who's from Pennsylvania, but he's from Philadelphia. Who's from Philadelphia? William Johnson. So all this time, he is actually keeping William Johnson under a tight look because he starts suspecting, well, maybe he's working for Professor Cope. Now, during the trip, he does, and by he I mean William Johnson, he starts putting the pieces together on, who is Professor March and the kind of like the situation that's going on with his paranoia. And at that point, he started putting the pieces together that, okay, there's another professor who is rivaling with his work, and he's being very secretive. Hence, when they said they were going out to the west, Professor March said, oh, we're going to Colorado, but they're not really going to Colorado. They're actually going to a different place. So you can only imagine how that would go. Now, during the trip, they start going to, with the different train stations, they start seeing different things. There were these towns that, in particular, that they got down and they saw people that are more, they saw thieves, they saw gunmen, they saw, all these different things. And of course, Professor March had them, beforehand, as part of their tools, have a, I forget the gun, but they were armed, pretty armed, for their own protection. And just so you get the sense of how hostile things were, there was one particular man who, he saw the students and he said, you all seem like a very nice lot, so I'll let you know, do not touch your guns unless you're intending to use them, because that will be perceived as a threat, or at the very worst, it's going to be used as an excuse to go ahead and shoot you. So keep your hands away from your guns. Nothing happens, but so far, they arrive to this town in Cheyenne. And this is where William Johnson, who is usually very shy around girls, he falls in love. Kind of. He gets kind of like this crush on a dancer called Lucienne. And Lucienne, she is the dancer at this kind of French-themed theater. And it's one of those situations where I'm not sure if it's just a theater type of thing or if there's like something else that's going on. But yeah, at any rate, he gets his first kiss and he is dazed. I mean, to the point where he arrives late, just because he was waiting for Lucienne to get out of work and kind of walk with her a bit out on the streets. And at some point, they both go their separate ways. She actually tells him, go back to your hotel because you have to leave in the morning. You have to be prepared. And when he arrives, the porter asks him, was it a good evening? Oh yeah, it was a good evening. So you got the sense that things went well for him. Not that anything really happened more than a few kisses, but for him that was a lot, because he's usually very shy around women. Now, what are my thoughts up to this point? Up to this point, if anybody was expecting this to be like Jurassic Park, that there's going to be dinosaurs and then there's going to be this and that, not yet, because it appears like this is in the timeline where they're barely discovering the fossils, and so it's kind of like in the very beginnings, and that is exciting because not just are we dealing with a character who is growing apparently, but also we are expecting things to happen, but we're not very sure what is going to happen. And by this I mean that in the introduction, which was kind of like a quick page in the book, it does mention that after that summer, he wouldn't be the same again. So that is actually fascinating. Very fascinating. I'm excited to keep on reading and kind of get to the bottom of it and see where the story leads. It's pretty fascinating. I know, again, I'm saying the same thing, but it's I'm stuttering, but is that I'm excited to get back to continue reading that book. So far, it seems like it's it's a quick book. It's just 324 pages, and right now I'm on page 63. Well, 62. On the start of a new chapter, which is on 63. But at any rate, we'll see where it goes, and I'll keep this updated. Anyway, sorry if this is not what anybody was expecting, but what am I talking about? Nobody's watching this anyway, so this is more for my pleasure. But anyway, take care, and remember, be kind to those around you, because you never know what they're going through. I don't know why I paused. Anyway, see you later.